So in this case, we are going to continue with our vectors, considering the column vectors. Remember previously, we worked with our translation vectors, which were represented as column vectors, where we saw the vector AB can be written as 3, 5 as a column vector. These vectors can be added or combined together. All right, we can have addition and subtraction of such vectors, which are represented as what? Column vectors. So to add or to subtract, let's say we are given the vector, we have got x2, y2 like this. Then another one is given as x1, y1. It's a subtraction. You simply consider the x values together, combine the x values together, x2 minus x1, the y values together, that's y2 minus y1. That's a column vector and as a single vector that you're going to have. So this is the simple properties that you're going to consider. If it was addition, meaning to say you're going to add those values of x together, the values of y separately like that. So let's consider, for an example, you're given 3 minus 1 plus 4, 3. This is what you're given. So to add, you're going to add the x values together, 3 and what? 3 and 4. So 3 plus 4, then the y values minus 1 and what? And 3. So that is the idea. So 3 plus 4, that's a 7. Minus 1 plus 3, that's what? 2. Simply 3 minus 1, which is what? 2. So we have as a column vector, the answer will be a column vector. So this is the idea that you're going to use to answer questions on addition, subtraction of vectors, all right? Let's say we've got something of this nature. We are given these vectors, all right? P, Q, R, S. Then find these vectors. As you can see, they are under addition. So let us just consider just one or two of the questions. Vector P plus Q. So vector P plus Q is equal to, you take the vector P as it is. So that's our vector P as a column vector, 0, 4 plus vector Q, which is what? Minus 2, minus 3. So simply add 0 plus minus 2, right? 0 plus minus 2. That's going to give us 0 minus 2, which is what? Minus 2. Then 4 plus what? Minus 3, the part of y separately. So 4 plus minus 3. A plus and minus gives us what? A minus. So we've got 4 minus 3, which is a 1. So that's simply the vector P plus Q, all right? Another one, P plus R. Simply take your vector P and your vector R just like before. This is our vector P, 0, 4. And our vector R in this is 4 minus 2. All right, just like that. So simply add 0 plus 4, that's a 4. The y values together, so that's 4 plus minus what? Minus 2. So this is plus and minus is going to give us a negative. 4 minus 2, that's a 2. So this is what you're going to have. All right, so that's how simply you're going to consider these vectors, all right? Vector P plus S, vector P plus S. On number C, vector P plus vector S. Our vector P, 0, 4 plus our vector S, which is what? 2, 0, like that. So you simply add 0 plus 2, that's a 2. 4 plus a 0, that's a 4. So this is what you're going to have, all right? Then Q plus R, vector Q plus vector R. Our vector Q is what? -2, -3. -2, -3 plus the vector r, which is what? 4 minus 2. So this is what you're simply going to have. So add -2 plus 4. All right. So what are you going to have? -2 plus 4. That's simply 4 minus 2, which is what? Which is 2. -3 plus -2. All right. So here we're going to have, sorry for that, -3 plus -2. All right. So this one is a -2. A plus and a minus gives us a minus. So it's -3 minus 2. From -3 minus 2, that's -4 minus, we are going to the left. So simply add the numbers. All right. Add these numbers. 3 plus 2, that's what? A 5. Then you put the common sign on your answer. So that was going to give us a -5. All right. So do revise your directed numbers because mostly this is going to be part of your paper one. All right, so that is how you can simply combine this. All right, so I need these answers to answer other questions. All right, so that is what you're going to need. So I just want you guys to continue with that. Write your answers in the comment section of what you're obtaining. All right, let us also have just this one, Q and what? Q and S, all right? Q and S, these are the two here. All right, so let us just have it somewhere here on top. That's part number E. All right, so number E, you need vector Q plus vector S. So vector Q, that is -2, -3. -2, -3 plus vector S, which is what? 2, 0. So that is what you're simply going to have. Simply add -2 plus 2. That's a 0. -2 plus 2. That's 2 minus 2, which is what? A 0. -3 plus a 0. We are not adding anything to -3. So -3 is just going to remain as it is. All right. So that's 0 minus 3. So there's no effect on the what? On the -3. We are not adding anything. 0. There's no effect. All right. Then F, that was vector R plus vector S. So our vector R, 4 minus 2. All right, we add vector S, which is what? 2, 0. So let's add 4 plus 2. 4 plus 2, that's a 6, okay? Then -2 plus a 0. What are we adding to -2? Nothing. So it's just going to remain as what? As -2. Okay, so I wanted you to see this part. I want you to continue with these persons, but I want you to see something like this part on G, where we are given to find P plus Q plus R. All right, on that G, vector P plus vector Q plus vector R. So vectors, just like, because this is simply addition, subtraction. So just like normal numbers, we can also consider to say 3 vectors can be added. There can be 4 of them. So if we are given, or if we had calculated before other vectors, like here, I want us to see something from our vector. We have got P plus Q. Check if you have calculated something like that, or Q plus R if we have calculated something like that. So that I want you to see that we have calculated, we can consider this way. There are so many ways. P are so many ways, guys. All right, so let me just use this one. We calculated P and Q, PQ, this one, vector P plus vector Q. We have it. So just indicate that vector P plus Q. The answer, we have it already. -2 plus -2, 1 like this. Then we add vector R separately. This is our vector R, which is what? 4 minus 2. So let's add and see what you're going to have. Minus 2 plus 4, we add these in x. So minus 2 plus 4, it is the same as 4 minus 2, which is what? Which is 2. 1 plus minus 2. 1 plus minus 2. A positive and a negative gives us a negative, remember? So here we are going to have a negative. So 1 minus 2 is negative 1. So that is what you're going to have. All right, but I want us to see something here. The same vector P plus Q plus R here, you can consider any other part that you calculated. All right, if we check properly, we have Q plus R here, vector Q plus R. This one, Q plus R, this vector here, Q plus R, vector Q plus R. We have it. We calculated this and obtained what? 2 minus 5. So simply substitute that. So what we are going to simply need, what you're going to need here is vector P. What is our vector P? 0, 4. So that's 0, 4 for vector P. Then we add this as a combined answer from what we calculated to minus 5. This is to show you that if one of these calculations is wrong, these answers won't be the same. But if our calculations are correct, then we're supposed to obtain the same answer as before, 2 minus 1. So let's add 0 plus 2, that's what? That's a 2. Then 4 plus minus 5. 4 plus minus 5. We're going to end up with a negative. So 4 minus 5 is what? Negative 1. So as we can see, it is the same answer as what we obtained here before. So also, guys, you can even consider P and R because we calculated that here, PR. We have that vector. So it is in your hands. You can even have that way from that. So just consider any way that you understand, guys. All right. So that was our vector P plus Q plus R. All right. Let's see this one. H vector P plus Q plus S. You can also consider anyway, as long you have calculated other vectors before, like here, P and Q. We already calculated this. It's just like before. P plus Q, we have that one. So just substitute the equivalent to vector P plus Q, which is what? Equivalent to minus 2, 1. So this is what you're simply going to substitute here, minus 2, 1. Then we add vector S. Our vector S is what? 2, 0. Just like that. So minus 2 plus 2, that's a 0, this one. Okay, they are the same. 1 plus 0, that's a 1. All right, so this was direct. Okay, let's consider another part of our question here. Okay, let's just finish up. Q plus R plus S. All right, we have Q plus R here, this one. Q plus R is this, we calculated, remember here. So that's 2 minus 5. Then we simply add vector S. Vector S is what? 2, 0, just like that. So this is it. So that was going to give us 2 plus 2, that's a 4, minus 5 plus a 0, that's what? Minus 5. So this is it. Okay, another one we can consider here, this is P plus Q. We have P plus Q. All right, what about R plus S? Yes, we calculated R plus S here. This is R plus S. So we're going to separate P plus Q separately, then R plus S separately. All right, so we have these vectors. We calculated them before. So vector P plus Q, we have it here, negative 2, 1. Then we add R plus S, vector R plus S, which is 6, negative 2. So we calculated that one. That was 6, negative 2. So you can simply combine these to obtain the final answer. Minus 2 plus 6. Minus 2 plus 6, it simply means what? 6 minus 2, which is 4. 1 plus minus 2 1 plus minus 2 is going to give us a negative. So that's 1 minus 2, which is what? Negative 1. So that's how you can simply obtain these calculations direct. So we can see that it is just like we are dealing with addition here. No, guys, we are dealing with the both addition and what? Subtraction. So let us consider something that can give us a negative. Like on this part here, you are given this question, a vector B. B is a vector. It's written in bold. So you can indicate with a bar like that to represent a vector, or you have to redo so that it is in bold, right? So that vector is given such that if we add these two vectors, 7, 2, and the vector B that we do not know, we must obtain this. So find vector B. So guys, this is just an equation. You are to solve for vector B, and it's a positive. So I can just leave that B on the left-hand side and take this vector to the right-hand side, knowing that it is an equation. Once it crosses the equal sign, it changes what? The sign. So meaning to say, we are going to have 4 minus 5, which was already on the right-hand side. Then we subtract. This was a positive vector, so taking it to the other side will make it to be negative. So we subtract that vector 7, 2. So that's giving us this vector B. All right, so our vector B is simply going to be, as we can see, this is under a subtraction 4 minus what? 7 corresponding elements. So 4 minus 7, that's a negative 3. Corresponding elements for the y values, minus 5, minus 2, which is going to give us what? A negative 7. Remember, the signs are the same. Add the numbers, you obtain a 7 with the common sign, which is a negative. Just like that. So meaning to say, if it was a negative on the vector B, 7, 2 minus vector B is equal to 4 minus 5, and you're being asked to determine or to find vector B. Avoid working with a negative. We can avoid that. How do we avoid? We take that vector to the other side of the equation so that it becomes a positive the moment it crosses what? The equal sign. So vector B will be written on the right-hand side of our equation. So thus, the other vector 4 minus 5 will be taken to the what? To the left-hand side, where it is going to be a negative. 7, 2 was already on the left-hand side, remember? So taking this vector is the one that is affected. It is the one that is affected. It will carry a negative because it crossed the equal sign. It changes the sign. It was just a positive here. So that will be negative 4 minus 5. That's our vector B. So you simply have to determine that vector B by what? Simplifying the left-hand side by evaluating what we are seeing. 7 minus what? Minus 4. Corresponding elements. 7 minus 4, that's what? A 3. 2 minus minus 5. This is what we have. 2 minus minus 5. A negative, negative, a positive. 2 plus 5, that's a 7. So this is what we are going to have, representing what? Representing the vector B if it was like this. So our vector B is or can be written as what? 3, 7. So that's it. Are we seeing the concept, guys? It can be maybe if it was like this with a negative there, you can just avoid working with a negative, or you can obtain it with a negative, negative. Then you simply divide your answer with a negative at the final stage. Actually, that's where you need to divide whatever that you're having with a negative. But okay, it's still one and the same. Let us see other questions. This is just similar to what we had before, so I'm not going to consider a lot of questions here. Just check through the exercise, your NGM book 3, and revise as many questions as you can. All right, here I'm just gonna consider just one or two. Let's consider this F. All right, so F here we are given vector Q plus vector R minus vector S. So what we simply need is vector Q, all right, negative 1, 5. We add to vector R minus 4, 2. Then we are going to subtract vector S, which is what? 0, minus 3 from what we are given. So this is simple mathematics. Add where you are adding, then subtract after that. You're done. So we are going to add these two. They are under addition. So combine these two first so that you properly see what you are dealing with. So let's combine minus 1 plus minus 4. So that's minus 1 plus minus 4. Positive, negative will give us a negative. So here, since the signs are the same, add the numbers 1 plus 4, that's a 5 with a negative. Since we have got a common sign, all right, so that is what you're going to have. Then here, 5 plus 2, which is what? A 7. But remember, this is just for addition. There is a subtraction that we ignored. So consider now subtracting that vector of what? 0 minus 3. So subtracting this vector from the first one, what are we going to have? Minus 5 minus a 0. There's no effect there. What are we subtracting from a negative 5? Nothing. So it remains as negative 5. 7 minus minus 3. Corresponding elements. So negative there is going to give us a positive. Right? It's going to give us a positive here. So that's 7 plus 3, which is what? Which is a 10. So that's how we can simply add, subtract numbers, whereas we are used to our normal numbers, but this is under vectors, all right? But the idea is still the same, all right? So where there's a bracket, it means our board mass has to be considered like this on H. Vector P minus vector Q minus R. Because of the bracket, we have to consider our odd mass, brackets off. So we have to consider brackets first. So vector P, 6, 3, all right, minus, here we are going to consider adding these two first. Vector Q, which is negative 1, 5, minus vector R, which is minus 4, 2, like this. So this is the idea. That is the idea that you're going to have. So we have to consider the board mass. In this case, the brackets first. You have to consider the brackets. So the 6, 3 is going to remain as it is. Subtract what? The answer that you're going to obtain from expanding the bracket. Brackets off. So this is what is inside the brackets. What are we going to have if we combine minus 1 minus minus 4? Back to directed numbers. Minus 1 minus minus 4. Negative, negative, that's a positive. So it's minus 1 plus 4, guys. This is 4 minus what? 4 minus 1, which is a 3. All right. 5 minus 2, this is direct. 5 minus 2, that's what? A 3. From 5 subtracted 2, that's what? A 3. So this is what you're simply going to have. So you have worked with the bracket, this one. So we have a single vector now, just a normal vector that you're used to, where we can subtract it from the first one. So 6 minus 3, corresponding elements. 6 minus 3, that's 3. 3 minus 3, that's what? A 0. So this will be our final answer from what we had. So I want you to continue with other questions that we haven't worked with for your preparations, and also let's communicate in the comment section. What are you obtaining from the other answers? All right, so it's all about revision. Let us do as many questions as we can, and also let's communicate on the community section, on the comment section where we do not understand, so that we can work on that part again. So that is it till we meet again.